I learned what it meant to put yourself out there as an artist and to be shredded to pieces and how to come back from that. And part of my personal transformation has pushed me further into my business ventures. There's been a lot of turmoil in my life, and I've drawn a lot of inspiration from that. I do think that the journey is such an important part, and it's not about where you end up. Welcome to Creating Creative Success with Carolyn Mara. This is my first podcast episode, and I'm so excited to be jumping into this realm. I've been thinking about doing this for a long time, and I think that right now is the perfect time for me to do it. I'm right in the middle of a transformation of my career. I've been doing art for a long time. I've taken moments of teaching. Everything's kind of coming together, but I'm not quite there yet. I'm going to launch a few things in the next few months, and I decided that starting this podcast now would allow me to bring people along on the journey with me. Of course, I've been spending the last year building up a lot of these projects, working on them, but I'm getting close. And I thought that as someone who is looking to teach artists how to become a business and teach people who feel like they're in a creative slump and pull them out of it, or if you don't think you're creative at all, finding your creative voice, I do think that the journey is such an important part, and it's not about where you end up. So I am going to take you along on the journey with me. And I'm starting today. I have really transformed the way that I decided I wanted to do things in the last year of my life. And I am focusing on stretching myself a little bit further and going in, again, different directions. So I'll talk a little bit about those directions. I continue to paint. I have been painting with my mop for a decade now, and I've really made that a business and feel great about that business. And I have a customer base, and I've had some shows, and I've really enjoyed doing that, and I plan to continue doing that. I've also began experimenting a little bit more with a new series of paintings, which is something that I haven't done in a long time. And that's fresh and colorful and new and something else for me to put out into the world. I have also been writing a book. I've been writing a book for a while, and I'm getting closer to publishing it. And that's something that's going to come out, I hope, in the next 2 months. And that's near and dear to me. It's called Creativity Awakened. Also, I have a class that I am going to launch called the Create Formula for Artistic Businesses. And that is going to be a class that will help artists learn the business side of running a business as an artist and all the things from LLC to taxes to using all of the platforms to your benefit to creating an email list, all the things that you need to do in one place. It's something that I learned along the way, and I was looking for information wherever I could find it. So I tried to compile all of the information that I needed and put it together in a one-stop course for people to learn everything that they need. And I have done a lot of the work on that. All of the content is there. Now it is being transformed into beautiful slides and talking notes for me to record. And that too is going to come out in the next couple months. If I'm going to do a podcast, let's learn a little bit more about me and what I plan to do here. I'd like to bring other artists on, other creatives on, maybe somebody who doesn't think that they're creative, and walk through figuring out what kind of creative voice they could have. There's all sorts of creativity. And for me, it is a lifeline. It has always been a lifeline. And I have to remind myself sometimes to channel that when things get really difficult. Just locking myself in a room with a camera and some crazy props and making some picture is a distraction, and it helps me get through whatever it is that I'm going through in that moment. And it's something I did so strongly and religiously when I was younger. I guess not only am I going through a business transformation, I'm going through a personal transformation. And part of my personal transformation has pushed me further into my business ventures because, when things get really difficult, as they can in life, I thrive on putting my best foot forward and jumping into projects. I went to grad school for art. I got my master's in fine art in photo, video, and related media. And art school is really about digging deep, breaking it up and breaking you apart and building yourself up. Like understanding truly what it means to be critiqued was something that I needed moving forward in my life more than I could ever understand in that moment. I learned what it meant to put yourself out there as an artist and to be shredded to pieces and how to come back from that. That was something that I didn't understand at the beginning. I'm a positive person. I like positive reinforcement, and really being ripped apart was difficult, but it gave me really thick skin, which became something that was necessary for me as I grew into myself and into my art in a social media space, because I am no stranger to a lot of negativity. And I embrace it now. I learn from it. I let it go. There is certainly a difference between constructive criticism and just criticism. And by learning how to handle constructive criticism and understanding the value in constructive criticism and not letting that get to you, when you just get criticism, you're like, just lay off. Like if you're going to tell me that I suck as a person, or you can say whatever you want about my art, and it's also been something that I've had to teach my children. I mean, seeing things written about me that were so horrible was not easy for some of them to read, and understanding why it's not about me. I could talk about that forever. I will do an entire episode dealing with hate because I'm quite passionate about it, actually. I've spoken to teens. I've done talks about it. I really think that understanding the psychology behind it helps neutralize it. And it's something that if you're on the social media space, whether you are a content creator or you're just a consumer who is commenting, sometimes, especially with a younger generation, they don't realize what they're doing by just jumping on the bandwagon. And it's terrifying. They don't even know how they're affecting someone. And I'm a grown woman and have a full career and thick skin from my grad school days. And I'm able to take what's said to me with a grain of salt. But I cannot imagine a young teenager, early 20s, somebody who hasn't really found themselves yet, the person that I was when I started in grad school, and I was feeling really affected by some of the things that were being told to me in love, basically, in order to strengthen me and help me grow. I would not have handled that criticism quite so well, and I might have really let it get to me and how I feel as a person. I certainly had a period in my grad school days where I was young. I was coming from a good childhood. I didn't have a lot of heartache. And I remember feeling like, gosh, really good artists are digging deep from real turmoil. And I don't have that kind of turmoil. And what does that leave me in my work? And, sometimes you get what you wish for. And cut 20 years later, there's been a lot of turmoil in my life, and I've drawn a lot of inspiration from that turmoil, and it has helped me grow as an artist without question. But I also have moments of art that have come from beauty and positive things. And I think people can draw art from anywhere, and it's how you look at it. And coming at it with the maturity that I have today is certainly different than how I looked at it many years ago. So post-grad school, I did a very political project working with lawyers that represented detainees in Guantanamo. And I explored looking at art through a different lens. I was curating images, curating sound bites from trials, and making a movie of interviews. And I was creating art out of something that was not quite so traditional. I worked on that with a partner, and we explored a different way to look at art, which has really been at the bottom of everything that I've done. I believe that anything can be made to be art. I did a video once that I took all my father's math and I did a installation of framing all of his math, and it is art in my home, and I love it, and it's meaningful to me, and it's who he is. It's his architectural math, and it's art. For me, it's art and it's beauty, and finding those things brings me joy. So after that, I married and I moved, and my shift came in. I had a classic degree in photography and master's degree in photography, and I wanted to find new ways to use that. And over the next decade, I stretched myself by doing different things in the realm of creativity and photography. And I taught a series of classes through an online school at the time called the Define School. iPhoneography classes, using your iPhone to find your creative voice, doing passion projects in photography, teaching creative voice to adults through the internet. This was when classes were so big, and I really enjoyed it. It was a very growth-filled time in my life because I was looking internally at how I was creating, and I was sharing that with other people, and I really enjoyed that. That time also brought some difficulty for me in my marriage and the way that I viewed myself and how much I felt hidden and how much I felt unseen is the right way to put it. I really just didn't feel seen and didn't feel wanted. And my partner was going through his own turmoil, and we were dealing with personal struggles and sickness in the family. And I really turned to photography in that time period as my lifeline, as my escape. And I did a whole series of self-portraits called Self-Help. And I learned in that time period that it didn't even matter what the final product was. It was the process of creating it, of getting the camera, of setting it up, of setting the timer, of doing everything by myself. It was this dance between me and the camera that created the image. And then all the pain and everything I felt lived in that image in that moment, and I could move on. I was able to get through that period of my life because I turned to art. And that's something that I feel really strongly about and passionate about, and why I love to talk about creativity so much. Moving from there, I began painting, I would say, in my very early 30s. I had always done some kind of painting things. I had a few things in my house. I built my home, and I needed art for my home, and I built a home with really high ceilings, and I couldn't afford the art that I wanted to put in it. So I decided to start experimenting and playing and making art myself. And that is where the painting part of my career began. I certainly had a classic training and understanding of art as a whole. I have never been a technical drawer or painter, but it was not something I ever gravitated towards either. If that's what I wanted to hang in my home, then I would have seeked that out and I would have bought that. But my home is full of color photography because that is close to me, things that I have both purchased and done, as well as paintings that I began painting once my house was complete and I wanted to fill the walls. And things worked and things didn't work. But as I started to find myself and realizing that I was working in these really large canvases because I wanted to fill my walls, and the beauty in the fact that when you're working with a canvas like that, you're not just using your hand, you're using your entire body to paint. And, I needed something that was like a paintbrush, but I wanted it bigger. So I turned to a mop, and I started feeling kind of like I was dancing with my mop on the canvas. And it took me probably 2 or 3 years of experimenting to really find my groove on what worked. I will go into full episodes on how I really started to expose myself as a painter, to share my work, to get my very first clients were people in Miami, which is where I'm from. And I was giving paintings to auctions and then getting some feedback. Somebody would buy the painting at an auction, but then two other people would have liked the painting and commissioned me to paint one. And, I needed to learn what paints to use and what not to use and gessos and everything else. And it took me a little bit of time. But as my painting career grew and I learned along the way what was working and what wasn't, I really started growing thanks to social media and thanks to sharing my process online. I love talking about how I was able to use social media to really grow my brand and my business and gain a lot of painting clients. I started with social media long, long, long ago, before some people even were reading at this point. And I was at the very beginning doing Instagram, doing all of the challenges. Some of the first challenges were Fat Mom Slim. I mean, this is dating me for sure. People probably don't even know. And then the WHP, which was the weekend hashtag project. I've been surprised how many people don't know what that is anymore. It makes me sad, but it was Instagram ran a contest every weekend called the weekend hashtag. And they would give a category. Everybody would get really creative and submit images by posting their images and tagging whatever the theme was for the weekend. And then on Monday, a team of people that worked at Instagram would go through and pick their 6 favorite and post them. And if you got posted, everybody on Instagram would see who you were and you could really gain followers. And I was selected a handful of times. I also had a feature done on me by Instagram, and I started to cultivate my audience based on that. So I started out with a creative realm and being creative and showing my creativity. And then I was teaching classes about creativity, and that's how I started. So early on, I used Instagram to gain a following and help me find people who wanted to learn from me. So as time went on, I have expanded. I have gone from Instagram to TikTok to posting on YouTube. This is going to be my first YouTube long videos because I'm going to post my podcast as a video podcast there. So if you're there watching me, hello. And I also do Pinterest. And I do think that as I've grown into TikTok and into you gain different audiences and different people on each of the platforms. And it's something that you need to do slowly. You can't jump on everything at the same time because you can't put all your energy in everything at the same time, and it just won't grow the way you want to. I have always focused on one platform at a time. Once I have that platform up and running and going, I add another one. And when I had Instagram and TikTok, I decided one day, okay, I'm going to start posting everything on YouTube Shorts and I'm going to let that grow. And I did the same thing with Pinterest. I started saying, okay, for the next few months, I'm going to leave those on autopilot. I'm going to keep creating content for those. But with my extra period of time, I'm going to go in and start creating pins. And it's a way to get people from all different walks of life into your content. And then you build your email list, which is really, you can take people from all the different platforms and get them onto your email list so that then you have a direct voice into them. Building all of this part of my business, that's the stuff that's going to go into my class. I am happy to talk about it here and give people ideas, little pieces of what I'm teaching and how I can be helpful. And then all of that content is all going to be put together there. And the same thing with creativity and everything that I'm going to share about finding your creativity or awakening your creativity, what that means. And then I'm happy to answer other questions or talk about other things on the podcast as well, especially with guests who we can all learn from together, because that's the beauty of these spaces, is learning from one another. And so if you have suggestions of people that you think would be nice for me to talk to, I would love to hear that as well. I could talk a little bit just to share a little bit about myself on a more personal level. I do think that it's worth saying, for those that don't know, that I have 3 children. I have a high schooler, a middle schooler, and a first grader who's 6 years old, two boys and a girl. And they have been part of my content more when they were younger, especially the younger two. I did a project that was near and dear to my heart for a long time with a whole group of photographers called Childhood Unplugged. And each week, we would post other people's work on Instagram, but each month we would do a blog post and we would do some kind of creative, unplugged adventure with our children and photograph it. And they are something that is so important to me, honestly. And I have these beautiful books from that time in my life, and I would share them in that realm. Never as I never did like a day-to-day vlogging or blogging type thing of my children. These would be specific moments that we would have one time a month where we would go do something and we would take pictures of it. And I cherish those so much. I don't know, that could be completely irrelevant, but I guess my journey with my children, especially with my daughter, I went through a really difficult infertility journey, and it's something that I did not talk about for a long time. And when I finally decided to open up and talk about it online after years of many miscarriages, I got pregnant with her quite quickly after that, which is so serendipitous. I finally let go and I said it, and I felt worried of judgment because I had children and I was having secondary infertility, but it was really meaningful to me to have a third. We had our own reasons that it felt so important to us, and then my little angel came. I guess I could maybe one day at some point do a personal episode of my podcast, but for now, I think the right thing to do is just share that I am a mother of three. I have a high school student, a 15-year-old, 6'1" son, and a middle school son who is an actor and a singer and a musician, and a 6-year-old daughter who is in first grade. And they're in very different stages of their life, and they keep me very busy. And it is so important to me that I let them grow in their individuality and also learn to express themselves and know that it's okay to show emotion and to watch me create. They have grown up in a home where I try to foster their creativity. And my oldest will be the one who says, I'm not very creative. I can only draw a stick man. And so we have to pull it out of him in different ways and find ways in which he can have a unique voice. And my middle son is very creative and really thrives on storytelling and music and plays many instruments and sings. And I want to encourage him to keep doing that for as long as he wants to do it. And my daughter is young and we don't know. She dances. She loves to dance. She likes gymnastics. She loves to move her body. And I think that might be her creative expression, but we don't know yet. I have always encouraged them to be in the space with me while I am creating. They should be part of it. They are part of me and what I do, and having them present and seeing what I'm making and how I'm growing a business will only help them learn more and understand and hopefully thrive. It's been a blessing to be able to raise them, and I'm so grateful for what each of them has taught me. They're just really good kids, and thank goodness. But I guess, you could say they're just really good kids, and I'm grateful for them, and I can't wait to see who they each become. And while they're not at the forefront of my business or what I share, they are in the background, and they are allowed to be as present or not present as they choose to be. I ask once a year on Mother's Day for a family picture with me and them, and my Christmas card is always very important to me. I love Christmas card season, and I try to come up with creative ways to celebrate the holiday. That's a little bit about my children. We live in Miami, and it's me and them, and I'm grateful for that. And it's taken a lot for us to get where we are, and I think that there'll be more changes in the years to come, and I'm looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to see what's next in that part of my life and their lives, and in growing together. So we'll see where that leads us. Thank you so much for joining me for my first episode of my new podcast. Please like and comment, ask me some questions that you're hoping to have answered, and subscribe so you can see the new episodes as they come out each week for the next 10 weeks. And then we'll see where we go. Thank you. I am so appreciative having you here.